we have issues. I guess we didn't need to tell you that, but we've got a good crew in here to talk about a great issue that affects high school sports. Joining me, as usual, Mark Robbins and our esteemed guests.
Yes, we have with us the Executive Director of the CIAC, Glenn Lugarini, and, of course, the Athletic Director at Daniel Hand High School, Craig Semple. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. And Noah mentioned that we have a special topic that's, near and dear to what you're doing, Glenn, with the CIAC. And Craig, you have a lot of ideas and want to really research this topic, and that is coaches and student athletes in the off season and what type of relationships they can have during that year. Am I right, Craig?
That's right.
So talk about it, because this has become your baby, Craig. This
Sure.
has become something that you're pursuing hard.
I've always been a believer in coaches being able to have the opportunity to work with their kids in the off season, especially in the summer. You know, I call it a dead period, which is a great opportunity. Everything's slowed down, and coaches really could use that time to explain things and develop things and to work with kids and ultimately to have a great relationship with kids. And I've always said that is the most important thing in the whole athletic program. The relationship with the student athlete creates the best possible culture. And I know our parents and our community appreciate that too, because they have a certain level of trust. They're turning their kids over to us, and they expect that the relationship is going to be very positive. It's going to be a role model, mentoring type of environment for their kids. And I know my own kids, I turn my kids over to coaches, and I expect that they're going to do everything the way I would want it to be done as a parent. So I think it's a great opportunity to cultivate that relationship with the coach and the student athlete.
As it stands now,
Right.
coaches can have that relationship.
Right.
Well, to a large extent, correct?
Correct. So currently, coaches outside of the defined season can't coach their kids in terms of skill development. The access that they have to their kids is in the form of conditioning, weightlifting. Those are things that they can do in the off season, but they can't do any skill or sport specific training outside of the limitations of the season at this point.
All right, so before we get into what you're moving toward, let's talk about, and Craig, you're quick to acknowledge this as well, why those rules are in place. They're not in some places, but in Connecticut and many states around the country, those rules are in place. Why?
There's a lot of pros and cons to working in the off season, and I think where we are right now is a great example for people as well about how CIAC works. And I think the belief is that there's a group of 20 people up at CIAC making decisions on what happens. In fact, we're a staff of 3, and we're a member-driven organization. So Craig and the SEC have done a lot of work and had conversations about this. Leagues are one of the 5 people who could recommend proposal changes to CIAC. So at this point where we are is the SEC has requested CIAC to put together a subcommittee to review the pros and cons of the current out-of-season rule. So exactly the question that you're asking.
So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we want the coaches to be with the kids?
Well, let me just back up a little bit just to say, I was an athlete a long time ago, and I could see that once upon a time we needed a break in the summer. We actually needed a 1975 summer to chill out and be with our families and do what we had to do.
Are you telling us that's when you were an athlete?
Yeah, no, in the 80s. But what happened is the advent of club sports and AAU jumped right in, and parents are basically hook, line, and sinker. They're in now because the opportunity presented itself that, hey, nobody's working with these kids in the summer. This is our opportunity to do the camps, the clinics, the leagues, and they're all not bad. I'm not saying that, but there's a big difference between a club-based sport and a school-based sport. In the school-based sport, you have a vetted coach, an education-based coach who's been through 45 clock hours. They have to get 15 CEUs over a 5-year period. They have to keep their CPR, first aid, all current. And they're always going to get refresher courses. So they're looking to coach the athletes, all the domains of the athlete. And there are some good club sports coaches, and there's some good AAU coaches, but a lot of them are accepting a big time check and telling them exactly what they want to hear. And it doesn't help the high school coach who is trying to service the community that he's working in, and it's just they're at odds. They're at philosophical odds, and that club coach is telling the athlete one thing, and the high school coaches knows exactly where they are in the developmental stage, and there's a conflict. And I know college coaches, because they sit in our office all the time, they really do want to hear from the high school coach, because they've seen their development from freshman year all the way to senior year. Mm-hmm. And maybe that club coach has only had them once at their highest level. So
would this eliminate or greatly reduce AAU and summer travel, quote unquote, sports if you have the majority of your kids playing with the high school team during the summer?
Yeah. I don't know how much it would reduce that. I think those opportunities have been fairly well developed, but it would certainly, give kids other options, and an option that they don't have. But I think at this point right now, when we look at why the rule is I do think that Craig brought up a good point. There was a belief that kids need a break in the off season. Also think that there's an effort we want to continually promote multi-sport athletes, and that there's a concern that if you have access to kids year-round, that coaches would be vying for kids to work solely with them and not participate in multi-sports. And again, when you talk to college coaches, I think they're interested in that multi-sport athlete. It shows athleticism in different areas than you'll see just playing in one sport. So, that's a piece to maintain. Over the course of probably the last decade, as schools and systems have faced financial burdens, unfortunately, one of the places that I think that's impacted the most is the athletic director. And we think the number of full-time athletic directors has reduced. So you have a lot of part-time athletic directors. You have teachers who get a stipend to work as an athletic director. So you don't necessarily in all places have an athletic administrator on staff in the summer.
Let me just ask you, and I want to ask this question, and then we can get to an answer after a commercial break here. But the question I have is, it seems that youth sports up to 18 years old is turned into a big business. Why can't high schools take advantage of some of that? And we're seeing diminishing budgets there, and we're seeing increasing budgets elsewhere in youth sports that, to me, is often nothing more than a money grab. Let's talk about that after this commercial break here on We Have Issues. We'll be right back.
The first person to survive Alzheimer's disease is out there. They're going to hold on to everything the disease steals away. That smile they can't hide. The dance class they love. Every single piece of them is going to make it through. And the Alzheimer's Association is going to make it happen by funding research, advancing public policy, and spurring scientific breakthroughs. And by providing local support to those living with the disease and their caregivers, we're easing the burden for all those facing it until we accomplish our goal. Alzheimer's disease has devastated millions of lives, but that's all going to change when we reach the first survivor. But we won't get there without you. Visit alz.org to join the fight.
If you want to go into the sports communication and media field, there isn't a place that's located in a better spot in the country than Sacred Heart.
You'll learn how to do every single job in the sports industry and give yourself the best chance to get hired right out.
We can offer this at a master's level that really makes sense. So people can come here for one concentrated year and come out ready to work in the sports industry.
We're here for lifers. We're here to develop your skills for a 40-year career in sports media. We're the perfect place to start.
Life, it's not measured by the breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Life is the unlimited possibilities all around us. It's the interesting people we meet, the epic places we see, the incredible memories we create. Life is always going on. All you have to do is choose to live it. Full of life, Mohegan Sun.
Here at Kentucky Taco Deck, it's all about good food and good times. For us, it's about supporting our community, and what better way than through our local sports team.
Really good.
which is why we sponsor the CT Sports Now Team of the Week.
Email us at ctsportsnow@gmail.com and send us your recommendation for the sports team of the week.
The winner will be featured on CT Sports Now,
And we'll throw the team a party.
Kantiki Taco Deck in South Norwalk, where it's all about good food and good times.
Welcome back to CT Sports Now, their special We Have Issues edition. And let's get back to the discussion. And, you know, we're talking about the idea of having high school kids playing for their coaches during the summer. But there are several instances in sports where they do play for their school during the summer because there are summer leagues. There's summer passing leagues, summer basketball leagues, summer soccer, et cetera, et cetera. But they're coached by other people, not the varsity coach that would be the in-season coach. Why allow we talk of giving kids break, allowing them to play multi-sports, but yet you're allowing them to play in a group and having a parent coach them or someone else outside of that. It seems a little bit, somebody could make the argument that it's contradictory.
Sure, and again, the rules right now, they would not allow a school to a team playing. They wouldn't be able to provide facility to work out and do that. So if there's groups of kids who get together that play AAU, you might have a coach from one school coach an AAU team with the majority of kids from another school, but they're not coaching their own kids. That would fall within the rules right now. Things like passing leagues where you have a group of kids but somebody else coaching them, as long as the school is not funding or paying for the facility, is not paying for the transportation.
So who's paying for the facility that they use at New Canaan for the Grip It and Rip It, where they bring in teams from 6 states from around the area and do that? I mean, I don't want to call them out.
Yeah.
No, Foreign has a passing league. There are a lot of passing leagues all over the state, right?
So I could tell you that we have very restrictive rules in Connecticut, but there's always ways around the rules. The more resources you have, the more ways around it. Schools have big booster groups that sponsor these events. There are 501(c) organizations. So they pretty much are accepting all the liability. They're renting the facility from the school, and they're using outside coaches to run it. Mm-hmm. And in the proposal that we have, we just want our coaches that coach our kids to be able to coach those kids also in the summer. It's really that simple. We want our vetted coaches that we trust and rely on and respect to be the ones, to be the face of the program in the summer also, and not somebody that we don't know. And there's always ways around it. To me, having summer coaches, having our coaches coach in the summer, levels the playing field. I really believe that. There's a lot of schools that don't have the resources. They're from different economic backgrounds. Those coaches would love to be able to coach their kids and not charge their own kids to be able to go to a football camp or a basketball camp or a baseball camp. I totally believe it levels the playing field. So,
if I just get back to the question we brought up as we went to break, and Glenn, you had an interesting answer to that, and that is, since there's money out there, right? There's money that could sustain a high school athletic department, and I think a lot of that money is going elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the reasons why it may not be such a good idea for the money to go to the schools.
Sure, and I think high school athletics is really one of the last pure places where athletics take place. Once you get beyond the high school level, then winning is really the only thing that matters. And so, beyond that point, you see a lot more with sponsorships, with scholarships, with things on that end. So the money piece with it, I think if we look at ways that schools can make money, you start to give that perception that in order for the kid to play on the team, he has to go to the camp that the coach is offering. There has to, there's some financial contribution there. And I don't think that's what coaches want. I don't think that's they're looking for that at all. I think they're trying to avoid those type of situations. They want the process in which they select their teams to be pure. They want to avoid that type of controversy. And again, we're not looking for ways to to make money off of parents and kids. I think budgets are tight. A lot of schools have pay-for-play programs right now. You know, I think anything that you do that increases a financial burden increases the gap between, Craig was alluding to a little bit, the haves and the have-nots in the state. It has to be, you know, we have to look at how do we balance that playing field, and how do we afford opportunities to those that readily could afford it, but also to those that can't.
Yeah, that's the key to me, because I think we've gotten to this point. I'm going off on a tangent here, which I often do. Sorry, but we have all of these athletic, youth athletic opportunities for the wealthy, and we're leaving a lot of people out of that. And so you can spend $4,000 a year to get your kid in a soccer program or get your kid in a baseball program or whatever, but there are a lot of people who can't afford that. There are a lot of people who are, having to choose what bill they're going to pay that month. And all of these academies sprouting up everywhere. There was a great story on HBO Real Sports recently where they talked about how we're just leaving a large part of the population out. I was talking to a buddy of mine who's from the Netherlands, and he was saying, in the Netherlands, every kid gets to play. The fields are all paid for by the municipalities or by, the parents having to fork up all this money. All right, that's a separate issue. So sorry, I just went off.
But you can tie it in, because wouldn't it be the opportunity for schools, not every school, but school systems, to be able to provide for those that cannot afford, if they have ways to make money through booster clubs, through raffles, and however they want to raise money to allow their students to participate in summer athletic programs. Yeah. They do that, I think, for other programs, academic programs, trips, etc. Why should athletics be left out of that kind of that fundraising level in the summer?
Yeah. Well, I think they do that now. To schools that I think there's booster clubs that are very successful, that are their own 501c3s that may run a golf tournament or a raffle or something, and they raise money for kids to go to camp. But those resources to do that doesn't exist in every community as well. And I think it's one of the good things about the process and the work that we do at CIAC, where, again, being member driven, this subcommittee is going to consist of principals, athletic directors, and coaches, and it consists of people who represent all the different demographics that we have. So we'll be able, a lot of the work that we're doing, to be able to turn back to the SEC a good list of pros and cons from both those people who have those resources and those that don't, to understand what's in the best interest of kids.
Let's get into where we are in this process, what you're proposing, what you guys are going to be looking at the CIAC when we come back here on this special edition of CT Sports Now. We have issues.
You see, the University of New Haven, it isn't just a school. It isn't just a stopover as you find your path in life. It's a home when you feel lost, a friend when you need a hand, an audience when you need applause, a true community that puts your goals, your dreams, and your fears right up front, with no limit and no question to what you can achieve.
At CCSU, we're connected to our past, to our communities, and most importantly, to each other. Visit ccsu.edu.
Life is about moments. If you fight, I fight. If I fight, we fight. You be there and watch what I do when the bell rings. Do you have that real look in your eye? That when you look at yourself in the mirror, you can ask yourself this question: did I give everything I got? Did I lay it all on the line? Or am I cheating myself? What you say, Quaid? See ya. Right at it. Right at it. Oh! He's done it again.
So whatever you're going to do, claim it. Leave your mark on this world.
Welcome back to this special edition of CT Sports Now. We have issues discussing issues with a couple guys who are discussing an issue. Craig, let's get more in depth into this proposal or into what you are asking the CIAC to do at this point and where we stand, because we understand the end goal here for you is to see your coaches and coaches around the state being able to work with their kids in the summer. So where we stand?
Well, right now, we submitted a proposal. We had a subcommittee within our SCC. We hashed everything out, and we actually sent the proposal to CIAC. Glenn was the point person, and Glenn took that proposal and brought it to he fast-tracked it and brought it to the Board of Controls, because he also believes it's an important issue that needs to be looked at. So right now it's in the Board of Controls, made a recommendation to put a committee together, and the committee hasn't been selected, but I know that will begin soon, and the goal will be to create a plan that's a workable plan for the state of Connecticut.
So again, let me just clarify. One of the first things I did this year with Greg Simon, our Associate Executive Director, me coming in, I'm finishing my first year as Executive Director. We went to every league to meet with every league, hear what concerns were and what people talked about, and again, what we shared with them, being a member-driven organization, is if you have a concern, your leagues are a place where you can raise concerns and you can make proposals. And we assured everybody that whoever you are, if you make a proposal, then we will ensure that it gets its fair share and its due diligence, and we want to make sure that happens. So that's part of being a member-driven organization. So I know this was a topic that the SCC, again, was really passionate about. So the proposal, again, came in at this point to ask us to help them gather data on it. So the process for that, when we get a proposal, it would go before our Board of Control, which the voting members are principals and assistant principals. Once that is approved there, then it would go to subcommittee, which is the point that we're at now. So we do have a subcommittee that we're putting together, and that subcommittee will be 6 principals. It will be 2 athletic directors, plus the executive director of CAD. It will be 2 coaches, plus the executive director of the Connecticut High School Coaches Association. We anticipate beginning the conversations in this work in September, finding a way to give all 11 leagues an opportunity to share their concerns and their pros and cons with the subcommittee. We would compile a report of the pros and cons as a subcommittee. It would go back to the Board of Control. Once the Board of Control approves it, then that information will go back to the SEC per their request.
How long do you anticipate all of this taking?
Based on being able to, and based on being able to have those conversations, we're looking at probably the first half of the year. Just thinking if the subcommittee meets in September or so, and then they'll have an opportunity at the subcommittee level to put a timeline together and what information they want as well. And again, I think it's important that we make sure that we hear from all stakeholders on this. We want each league to have an opportunity. We want the people, the different DERGs, the different size schools, everybody to have an opportunity to share that information, and then that will go back to the SEC so they can determine how they would like to proceed.
But this wouldn't necessarily be, or wouldn't be, a league-by-league thing, right? This would be statewide or nothing, correct?
Right now, the only proposal that we have is to look at the pros and cons. So, again, as a CIAC standpoint, as a CIAC executive director, I don't make any proposals, nor do I vote on any boards.
But if anything were to pass, it wouldn't be league by league. If something were to be put through, if something were to change, it would be statewide.
That would be up to the membership.
Okay. Craig, Rhode Island just passed something similar to your. I mean, how much did that affect your desire? Did you have any contact with Rhode Island being a border state?
I did not have contact with them, but we actually finished our proposal before that was announced.
Oh, okay.
So it was just coincidence that, they announced that this is their plan, but we had already been in the process prior to that of developing our own proposal, and I was in conversations with Glenn that we're going to submit it as a league. But I had done the research on every state in the country, and I submitted all that data also. So.
And what you found is that this area, specifically New England, is much more restrictive than...
It's the most restrictive, yes. Really. But I understand why. And, but I also, I'm encouraged that we have an opportunity to change something. And I hope it's not too late, because I feel like there is definitely the clubs and the organizations that are for profits are circling the wagons. And the parents I feel like they're pressured to buy in now. Like, this is the avenue we have to go with our kid now. It's going to cost us money. Like you said, Noah, lots of kids are getting left out. Lots of kids. Yeah. And I just like to see the playing field leveled. I'd like to see more kids have opportunities. I'd like to see our education-based coaches be the ones that are developing our kids.
We're going to take a quick break, but we have more issues. So we're going to be right back here at this special edition of CT Sports Now. Stay with us.
Life is about moments. If you fight, I fight. If I fight, we fight. You be there and watch what I do when the bell rings. Do you have that real look in your eye that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you can ask yourself this question: did I give everything I got? Did I lay it all on the line? Or am I cheating myself?
What'd you say, Quaid? See ya! Right at it. Oh! He's done it again!
So whatever you're going to do, claim it. Leave your mark on this world.
Watch me, Mom.
Watch me, Dad.
Watch me, Coach. Watch me, Sheehan High School. Watch me, St. Joe's. Watch me, Waterbury. Watch me, Farmington.
Watch me, Fairfield County.
Watch me, Connecticut. Watch me play. Watch me work. Watch me compete.
Watch me get to the quarterback.
Watch me cheer. Watch me throw them out. Watch me score.
Watch me cross them up.
Watch me win. Watch me. Watch me.
Watch me.
No, watch me.
Watch me on Vantage Sportsnet.
Vantage Sportsnet by Frontier.
When crime breaks in Connecticut, Fox 61 Chief Investigator Brian Foley brings you an insider's perspective of the investigation.
There'll be an internal affairs investigation.
It's something that no other station can deliver. He digs deeper.
IAD will dig in, they'll look at all the police reports.
Works with the community.
Coming to New Haven, I get my methadone every day.
And he takes action.
Did you get any money?
No, nothing.
And you knew this guy?
Yes.
Chief Investigator Brian Foley, exclusively on Fox 61 News at 10. Expect more.
Welcome back, CT Sports Now. We have issues. I just want to wrap things up because of the parents out there who think that they've got to get their kid in every program, get them an advantage, get them into college. Real quickly, Glenn, the statistics of kids who go on to play big-time ball.
Sure, and you can go on NCAA website, and they have some information out there on the statistics right now of participants and scholarship people. Right now, you're looking at about 6% of all high school athletes going on to play at Division I, II, or III in college and two-year colleges, and about 2% earning scholarships.
All right, the numbers are there. Numbers in my ear say we're out of time. Glenn and Craig, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.